Hope everyone's okay and you can hear us and see us, but we are now hopefully live. I was going to be live to Twitter, but it tells me after I try to do it that apparently you need to have a X Pro account. So we're not streaming to Twitter as well. So F you, Twitter. Anyway, Jeffrey, how are we doing, sir? You okay? You all good?
Doing wonderful. How about you, Paul?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Other than being punched in the nuts this morning by my little boy on his first test day at school. So we will leave that where it is. We'll park that. We've already talked about this offline, but it was an experience. So, yeah.
So your voice might be a little higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my voice is a little higher today. I can't help it.
Little Mickey Mouse-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse-ish.
So if you could let us know, hey, video and sound fine, good. Thank you very much, Imran. You're an absolute star. So, Jeffrey, we've got a couple of topics we want to talk about today. So I think let's hit the ground running by probably one of the bigger topics that's come up in the last couple of days, and that is the sort of 100-employee layoff at Elementor. And let's have a little sort of chat about why we think this might be happening and just kind of the sentiment around Elementor and things like that at the moment. And as always, if anybody in the chat wants to get involved in the conversation, by all means, drop a comment down there with hashtag Q for question, and we will take a look at answering those. But what's your take on this from what you've learned about it the last couple of days?
Oh, man. Well, first, got to say what's up to Jewel, seeing him inside of the chat. Max and Imran, that's cool. Awesome to see Jewel here. I wish, honestly, my take is I wish Elementor would run things like Jewel does Fluent. Like, that's a great example of what a good business does. Yeah, but my take, I've taken some time to sit back and I'm actually creating something on this. And I did a lot of research today, and I started lining up patterns that I've been seeing, because my first instinct when I saw the 100 employee layoff and blaming AI, I kind of felt like this is bullshit. I felt like there's something not right about this. There's something feels off, and maybe that's because too many of these tech companies are using AI as a scapegoat to slim down their spending and earn more. And we're seeing this happening in a lot of companies who are actually earning a lot of money and just cutting costs, which is really cutting the most important thing of a company, which is their people. You know, that's 100 families that now are in a very tough situation that they just got put in. And then the second part, you know, and I think the reason why I felt strongly about this is because this messaging of blaming AI for things, all it does is create fear for web creators. It adds to that fear. So if it is, let's say if they are bleeding like crazy because there are no sales, and that's because everybody's already shifted to making vibe-coded websites, which I do not see happening. I don't see that happening right now, and I do not believe that is the case. But if that was the case, like, okay, I could kind of understand, but I don't. And I think that using AI as an excuse, it's just too much of a convenient scapegoat. But I just feel it does so much harm to us web creators as well, because already so much of us are in fear. So much of us are already thinking, oh, there's not going to be any work coming later. Like next year, nobody's going to need us. And all this did was contribute to it. Now, I got a lot of other reasons why I think there are other reasons why they're making these cuts. But yeah, I would rather hear what you got to say, because I could just go on a tangent right now.
Tangent away. It's fine. I should have put my anti-fan t-shirt on just because everyone thinks that I am anyway. So that's all good. No, I hear what you're saying, and it is something that I think is becoming absolutely prevalent inside the tech industry. You've only got to look at some of the companies that are laying off. The thing that kind of worries me is, where are the layoffs actually coming in? So let's say we're talking 30% of the workforce. So does that include technical support? Does it include what's left of the marketing? Does it include actual people coding? At which point, if they're slimming down and they're trying to ramp up for version 4, does that mean they're going to start to move over to using AI code alongside the Elementor hand-coded side of things? You know, they're already pushing the AI element with Angie and so on. So you do have to kind of wonder at what part of the company or what parts of the company are going to be affected directly. Because as we spoke about very, very briefly before we came on, if it's technical support, Elementor historically, and I haven't used it, well, I haven't actually used it ever, but just from gauging the sentiment in the different Elementor groups and things and comments and stuff like that, it wasn't a particularly good experience for a lot of people for a long time. Now, if that's moving over to AI, with something as complex as a page builder with so many moving parts and so many variables, surely that's not going to be a positive experience for most users, even if it's just like level 1 technical support before it potentially gets escalated to a human. As you said yourself, you had a recent experience going through the AI help on a technical sort of aspect with a tech-based company, had a terrible experience with it, and when you did get pushed to a human being, they basically pushed you back to the AI. Now, that's not a good experience and not something that's going to advocate more people wanting to use your product. So what do you think? I mean, where do you think this is kind of come from? And the same goes out for everybody that's actually in the comments now. Drop a comment. Where do you think, if 30% of the workforce in Elementor are going, where do you think they're going to cut that fat from? And what implications do you think it'll have? Because I think this is the bigger question, not just the number of people, but where are they being cut from, and what impact is that going to make on the people that actually use Elementor and rely on it?
Yeah, it's going to come from where they could automate and replace. Usually it comes from support.
Yep.
That's what companies have just been doing. And I mean, I've always empathized with Elementor support because they have their free plan, and there are millions of users who have no clue of what they are doing. And they're trying to build their own website, and I'm sure they're just flooding their support with like, how do I do this? How do I do this? So I kind of always understood why Elementor struggled with the support, but I think it's definitely not going to help. And it's not the first time that they've done this as well, because in 2022, they did lay off, 60 of their employees, which at the time was, I believe, 15%. So they've done big layoffs before. I think the real problem with this, though, is that the clarity, the transparency about all this. I think there's been troubles already happening. And you notice I'm not creating videos on V4, and I've been struggling with it. And I think we've all been struggling with V4. It's just been such, I don't know how to say this lightly. It's been a disaster across the board that has negatively impacted everybody. And I think that has impacted Elementor as well. And I think that bad decisions have been made that are impacting their business, and maybe they do need to slim down. Maybe they are not pulling through financially. I don't know. There's no clarity on it. There's no transparency on it. But using AI as a scapegoat and just saying it's because of AI, when there's something else obviously happening. And all you have to do is look at the patterns. Look at the communication. Look at the community. What are people going through? And it's not just the users. Before the call, I brought up like the plugin developers. Uh-oh. Claude wants to do all kinds of, I have Claude building something, and all the pop-ups came up. Allow. But
Elementor Mark 4.
But the thing is, it's impacted everybody in a negative way because it was a feature that changes everything in the builder. It's a complete new workflow, and it was far from being complete, and it was pushed out and forced out. In fact, it wasn't just like, here it is, like, okay, you could use it if you want. It's like, nope, we're going to make it default. It's like they kept doubling down on this. And, I've been spending some time just looking at the patterns, and this has been going on for a few years now. And I think this is kind of like the cherry on top. But again, this is just my observation. I would love to hear yours and even others inside of the chat.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because, like I said, I don't really keep up to speed with everything that's going on with Elementor because yourself, I left Elementor behind pretty several years ago now, and while when I started off, I was still going back and checking things out and took a look at V4 when it came out and so on. And much the same as you say, the V4 was not a good starting point. we've talked about technical debt and legacy debt and stuff like that and how that impacts things. And I want to kind of go back to one of the points that I think was sort of brought up in the article. And I'm assuming this was taken from having a conversation with the two owners of Elementor. And that was basically they wanted to go back to their roots and become agile again. But we very quickly talked about this before we came on and said that the days of being agile in Elementor, forget any kind of external products they may have, that's gone. They cannot be agile anymore. They've got if you were going to brag about having 15 million users and was it 10 or 15% of the entire internet is powered by Elementor designed websites in whatever format, free or pro, you kind of think, well, in the same way that Adobe, WordPress, Microsoft, all those companies, they cannot be agile. That's why when new contenders come into the marketplace, they are much more agile. They're pushing new features. They can change things that will be breaking changes. These companies can't do that. And I think this is the big problem that we had with V4 coming out and, like you say, becoming the default, is that it wasn't ready. It didn't have enough tools in there, so you were reliant upon two workflows, V3 and V4. So you're having not a positive hybrid approach, which means that you either go back when more features come out into V4, or you have a site that you have to maintain two versions in the same design, neither of which are particularly a good experience for you or I, because once you've shipped that site, you can't go back to the client and say, is it going to cost you another $5,000 now? Because, well, Elementor, the page builder that I chose to use to build your website, they've brought us some updates, which means that I'm going to go back now and we've got to remove those old things. So we're not using legacy code and we're putting new code in there. They're going to go, no. If you want to do that, you made the choices, you suck up the cost, which is not a good scenario for any business person. So I just think, and I just think there's better products coming out. There are new products that are embracing technology in a far better way. I haven't tested Angie, and from my understanding, it is better than it was with its first AI versions. But I just think there are better tools out there that are doing a better job. And they can be fast. They can respond to what is already a massively volatile market. Look where we are now from 6 months ago to 12 months to 18 months ago with AI and its prevalence in so many different tools where it is actually starting to make sense. Like, look at Build Areas, for example. I mean, Dave Den will sort of vouch for this. He's doing some work with them. Their AI integration is smart. Look at it in Instatic, which we'll talk about a little later. The integration there makes sense because it's built into it relatively early in the life cycle, not going back and expecting great results from it. So I just think every company, every product has a life cycle, it has a lifespan. It will peak and it will start to drop. And I think we're coming down the other side of Elementor. I don't think we're going to see it disappear anytime soon because too many businesses are built on it. Yeah. But you've probably been the same as me. When you run a business, a web design business, where you are 10 years ago to the tools you used then, to the tools you use in 3 years later, to 5 years later, to where you are now, they change. But you don't go back and redo those websites. When the client either leaves or they want something new, you'll start to use your new tool set. And I think that's the way that we're going to see it. People will slowly phase out using tools like Elementor in favor of other tools that allow them to have a hybrid approach between AI and hand development and visual development.
Yeah. I mean, I think Elementor is going to be around, no doubt about it. But I also think V3 was good. It got good. I think they didn't get a lot of credit for how good they got in it. Now, a few years ago, we all know the biggest criticism was sloppy code. It was just full of divs, a lot of the technical debt, but they have slowly and steadily chipped away, cleaning up the code. It's actually not bad anymore. If you go and look behind the scenes, they've done a pretty good job. Now, for those who were wanting to have a more advanced workflow and experience, like those of us who are okay, we've been using it for several years and we're seeing what Bricks has with the class-based workflow, the variables and components, that's awesome. And when Elementor announced that, yeah, we're going to do this now, like it sounded cool. And in theory, it is cool because it's something we all want. But the execution of it was so bad that it just hurt everybody. And I think it hurt them as well. I think there's a lot of long-term users that have lost faith and trust, and there's it was, and I think it's been building up that way. For an example, they used to listen to us when we would get upset in their community and say like the first time they put ads in the pop-up. Everybody was just like, dude, this is terrible. Like, you get rid of it. And they backtracked. They're like, hey, sorry about that. We understand. We removed it. But they got to a point where they're just like, yeah, we don't give a F. We don't care. In fact, here's more. Here's 10. We're going to keep putting, here's an affiliate dashboard for your clients to go through. So they could ask you, why aren't we using this? They're doing these things that are not for us. And this is the trend that I've been seeing. Something I've been thinking about too as well, the Elementor Hub. Remember that back in the day? And to me, that was like the golden years of Elementor. When the community was positive, it was cracking, it was awesome. It was like a cool place to be in. And they were doing a lot for their community, but there was a shift. And I believe right around that time, and I think this is about when the investments came in, the venture capital came in, and they wanted to take that next step, which is not a bad thing. But there's my boy. He saw something. He's doing his job.
He's got an opinion on Elementor as well.
He's like, stop it, Jeff. You're going too far. But these are just signs that have been leading up to this. And I'll just wrap it up with this. The hub was there. People were getting work from it. It was a great place for us to showcase our work. Even if you didn't get work out of it, like a client didn't find you, you could always share your portfolio. Like, hey, we're inside the hub. Take a look at our work. It could help us close deals. It benefited us. But they removed it, said they couldn't really dedicate the resources, but then quietly opened up new features for them to sell, doing maintenance, doing things that we do for our clients. So they took something away that helped us and then started selling their own service that actually worked against us. And this is the pattern that I've been seeing with the V4 rollout. It was something to help with their marketing, but at the same time, it hurt everybody else. It put newbies in a situation where, like, what the heck is this? What do I do with this? Do I have to learn this? It put the experienced users in a situation where, like, yeah, I'm ready for this, but now I'm trying and you're telling me I need to mix this with V3. I know that's a bad thing to do. They pushed out a beta release telling everybody to put this on a live website. Everybody called them out. But they did not acknowledge getting called out. They did not acknowledge, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't tell people to put a first beta live on a production site. Instead, they doubled down. They said, no, do it. Do it. Like, they're just doubling down. And, it impacted everybody in a negative way. So this is just a pattern I'm seeing. And I think this is just my guesstimate right now. I think all this has been building up, and I think it's coming to bite them right now. I think they're feeling it because I see a lot of people, my community, a lot of members of my community, and organically, not from me influencing anything, because I've been quiet about this, very quiet. Not like, I'll be honest, but not like this. Yeah. Organically, a lot of people are like, we're just fed up. Ready to go to something else.
Yeah. Also say these are sort of the vocal few because there's always a subset of people in every kind of community, whether that's Facebook communities, our communities, whatever, they'll be very vocal about their dissatisfaction or their absolute love for a particular product or service. So we have a sort of a skewed view maybe of what people are really thinking. We have to sort of be mindful of that. It's very easy to kind of get wrapped up in that bubble. It's like everybody thinks the same thing. And it might not be the case. But I totally agree with you that there's a lot of disregard for what the community actually wants, and also a lot of gaslighting. I'll go back to, we'll kind of wrap it up on this, but we move on to the next topic. We don't sort of just dedicate the entire thing to talking about Elementor, which could happen. But to go back to some other things, right? Like, let's go back to the way they restructured the pricing probably about 18 months, 2 years ago. And they got rid of, I mean, you originally had, was it 49, 79, and something like 199, something like that, wasn't it? It was like one site, 3 sites, then like 1,000 sites. The typical kind of crazy number jumps. And then they turned around and said, right, okay, we're keeping those, but if you buy the $49 license, you won't have WooCommerce and you won't have dynamic data, right? So you have to buy the 3 license version to get that at $79 if the pricing is still the same. And then you had in the community, sort of the official Facebook group, certain moderators saying, what I sort of posted about, you're feature stripping. You're literally feature stripping. You're taking out features out of a product. And the pushback was, we're not feature stripping. Now, to me, feature stripping means I had, for $49, I had 1 license and I had the full fat Elementor Pro, everything. Then you decided that that $49 one would have certain features no longer included. You'd have to buy the next tier up. What's the definition of feature stripping? Surely it's keeping the price the same, keeping the license the same, but not allowing people to have the same features as the next tier up, which all of the tiers originally had. Is that not feature stripping? But the pushback was, and the sort of moderators going, we're not feature stripping. There's nothing being stripped out. You still have access to it. It's like, yeah, people that already have the license have access to it. But lots of people were saying, when I have a new client, we get them to buy their own license. Now they've got to buy 3 licenses for 1 website. So yeah, sure, if you're an agency and you're buying 1,000 licenses, it made no difference. But we don't all do that. Lots of companies say, look, once the job is done, I'll be there for maintenance, but you are in charge of your licenses, or we will purchase the license on your behalf. So I don't care what anyone says. That to me is feature stripping. Same price, same product with features reduced. It's feature stripping. I'll just leave it at that. So
I think they got a million marketers are just finding ways like, let's make this new plans, new
it's
plan.
it's the enshittification again, isn't it? So it's like, it is.
Yeah, I'll end with this, just back to the whole AI layoff thing. Dave McCann, he wrote a really good post on this, and it was, what I was feeling. Something just feels off about this. Now, if the case was like they came out and were like, you know what, we're bleeding right now, we just can't afford it, our sales are down X amount percent, and in order for us to, push through and survive these changes, we have to make these cuts. We absolutely don't want to. And it should be the last thing any company wants to do. When a company decides that they want to grow and get big and get funding and start to hire people, it's like something changes where it always needs to be about the people that you employ, because them and their families are depending on that job. They're depending on the founders, the CEOs, the people who are making decisions to make the right decisions to give them security and to, take care of them, and not to just to screw them over or to put them in a bad situation just to increase profits. I think it's disgusting when we see a company who is profitable making cuts to make more profits. That's just disturbing. But that's not how it came out. From what I read in the post, it was that we're making these layoffs because we're seeing something that's happening. It's like, it was, and like I have to get the words. I don't want to say the wrong things, but basically the way I took the context was that things might get bad later. We might lose sales later. So in order for us to be good later, we need to cut now, which something feels off. And I wouldn't doubt it if sales were down, but again, I think that's more due to decisions that have been made, not AI, because I'm not anti-AI. I've embraced it because I believe AI is a very fundamental part of the web design process going forward. And I think it is important for us to use it. But I don't see AI replacing web designers. I don't. I just can't. I can't see that. I mean, you could get a Wix website for $100, so somebody could do a vibe coded website. The threat's always been there. I can't afford to think that way. I don't think any of us could afford to, because as soon as we start thinking that way, even if a part of it might be a little bit true, but if we start thinking that way, then the mindset is going to be focused on that. And if we have a mindset focus like nobody's going to need us, nobody's going to need us, it's going to be harder to close deals because there's something off already in the way that we're thinking. So yeah, just ending it with that. I think using AI as a scapegoat, not giving any kind of transparency or clarity around the decisions and like showing this is actually the reason why. I think it's messed up, but I also believe that this is causing more harm to web creators. It does. I think when people start saying, we got to cut, we got to fire because of AI, we got to fire because of AI, it creates that narrative that everybody is telling themselves and hearing that AI is taking all of our jobs away. And then everybody gets full of fear. So I don't even get upset when I see people just in the comments at either of our videos that just go off on a tangent about AI and, how bad it is to teach it. I get it. I understand where people are coming from. I don't think it's right. We might not agree, but I know where it's coming from, and they contributed to it as far as I am seeing it. That's how I'm reading this.
There's definitely a lot of AI fear out there, and yeah, you are right that a lot of people are. It's very difficult not to get that message when you are getting AI bros. There's two kinds of sort of content creators, I think. There are the content creators that are, this is amazing, this is we're all cooked. It's like, web design's gone, this is gone, that's gone, the other's gone. And then you've got the other ones that are being more responsible and say, look, this is a tool that you can use, that it will ultimately, yes, people will lose jobs, but it will also open up opportunities that weren't there previously. All technology in one way, shape, or form has changed the landscape. Not as fast or as dramatic or as drastically as AI is right now. But how much farther is this actually going to go? It's already at the point where it's basically consumed all the information that's out there. The good, the bad, the wrong, and the right. So what is left to get? What information is left to get out there? If all the information has been consumed, how is it going to get better? The only way it can get better is to be less incorrect, shall we say, and just more optimized. But not to jump on the sort of the AI conversation, because I think we've exhausted a lot of this. I honestly think that we are in should we say, a wedding period, not a honeymoon period, but a wedding period, where the companies are basically giving us access to these things for not enough money. They're not charging enough for it. So the average $20 plan, I don't think is going to be there much longer. I think you're going to find that it's going to be a minimum of 100, and the hundreds are going to move to the 200 or 300 and scale proportionally. They just can't be sustainable. Plus, the dislike of these data centers across the world.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Paul? Am I still here? Are we still live?
I'm still here.
Pull up YouTube. I don't know.
I'm still here, I think. So we'll wait to see if Jeffrey's having a technical glitch. We all good?
Okay, I'm still here. Good to see you back, Paul.
I'm still here. Sorry, I just couldn't help doing that. Yeah, let's move on from the AI. Let's not move on to something more positive, is it? Let's move on. So, speaking of AI taking everything away from us all, our communities. just joking. No, we want to talk about the community side of things, because I think this is a natural progression that I've been doing for the last year, 18 months. Jeffrey, you've been doing for probably longer than me there. Other people like Jimmy and so on, the webinar, sort of pushing his community and everything. And I do think this is the next bastion for content creators that are sick to death of having their content basically repurposed by AI. And therefore, we've seen traffic on YouTube, traffic across the board is down by like 75, 80% in a lot of use cases. So you kind of have to question, why would I keep doing this if literally AI is taking my content and repurposing it and making me obsolete in that cycle? So if anybody doesn't know, myself and Jeffrey, we've got our own communities, which we then can control what content goes on there, but also control what content gets out. So what was your sort of reasoning behind it? Maybe to start off with, and where you are now and how you have kind of changed your community in very similar fashion to what I did probably about 8 to 10 months ago. So if Jewel is still here, he'll appreciate this part.
Where do I begin? The start? It was 6 years ago when I
6?
began. Six
Wow.
years ago. Started with the building businesses with Elementor Facebook group, right
Okay.
when COVID shut down. Everybody was full of fear and hopelessness, losing jobs, not knowing what's going to happen, stuck at home. And I know what hopelessness feels like. I spent nearly a decade homeless on Skid Row, and I know that feeling of not being able to see a better tomorrow. And so I created the group because I moved out here to Thailand with $600 in a computer I had no idea how to use because I never used a computer. I barely knew how to email. I got my first job, like I moved up to management at Home Depot, and then uh the manager above me was like, send me an email. And I was like, how the hell do I do that? I got a job, not I got promoted to management, had no idea how to do emails. But I know for a fact that this was something that you could learn. You can learn it quickly if you put in the work, and you could start to make some income, and it could turn into something. So I created the Building Businesses with Elementor Facebook group. And on a positive note about Elementor, I still feel this way today. I do think Elementor is a great start for people. I think that it is. That's why I think the V3 was so good, and it still is, because it is simplified in a way where you can create good websites, learn how to do this quickly, start generating revenue and getting clients. And then when the time is right, you want to advance, that's fine. But yeah, I created that, and it grew, and it's always been a mission just to help web creators create better lives. That's the reason why I'm doing all this. So after that, we left to, I just got off of Facebook because I just don't like Facebook. And then I got onto Slack, and then we went into Circle. We were in Circle for 4 years. I just
Wow.
recently went through all of our invoices and all the payments, which was a lot, dude. I was like, dang, I paid that much. I could have got a car, for that. But it's okay. It wasn't about the money. It never has been. And after 4 years on Circle, I made the decision to leave to self-host it. And now we're on Fluent Community, which is awesome. I am so thrilled to be away from, another greedy company, and to be self-hosted. And that's a beautiful thing about WordPress, is that we do have that option where we could self-host and it's ours, and it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. And you were a big help in moving away, hearing your experience. So what's it been like for you now that you've been with Fluent Community for some time?
One thing I will say that I like about not just Fluent Community, but the sort of the suite of products that I use is they are a company that actually listens to what people say. I mean, I'll give you an example. I've spoken to Jewel a couple of times about just different things that either didn't work the way I expected, or just features that coming from Circle I'd like to see. And a lot of the time they get implemented. I've had things where I've sent him an email or sent him a message on Facebook, and literally within an hour he's come back and said, there's a new version uploaded that's got that sorted. And it's like, that's awesome. But from an experience point of view, I think the setup takes a bit of time. You've got to get your head around it, because you've literally just gone through this. And I wish that when I'd moved away from Circle that it had the MCP server as part of Circle like they do now, which meant that between you and Jewel and some of his team probably, you were able to migrate all of your content over. Literally, when I did it, that wasn't available, that wasn't an option, so I had to migrate my users over, but everything else had to be rebuilt from scratch. So all the groups, blank group or blank groups, no content on there, had to re-put my courses and everything on there. But I do think it was the right decision for many different reasons. One, like you say, the ability to self-host and have control. And like Jimmy, hi Jimmy, has been saying the same thing. It does give you that ability to have your control, not just over what's on there, but also who has access to it. Now, obviously, we create an awful lot of value, not just us, but our communities create a lot of value. The people that are in there asking questions, answering questions, getting involved, sharing information. This is the whole point of a community. It goes back to the forum days, which, if you ask me, were the golden days, because forums were logical to find. You could sort, search, find information. It was a much nicer place, much nicer than your typical Facebook group can be. You know, we've all seen some toxic elements go into some big Facebook groups and absolutely decimate it with their attitude and just the way they speak to people. Well, I just think we're kind of getting a nice hybrid now. We're getting the flexibility of like a platform like Facebook for their groups, but with the kind of control and the much nicer user experience that we see with, or we saw with forums. That to me is a kind of lovely hybrid approach. The integration, for example, between the different things. One of the things that really annoyed me about Circle was their approach was you could have, I think, unlimited users, but they locked away features. Now, I prefer the approach of you can have all the features, but they lock it away to a number of users. Then, so when you scale, you can scale effectively. As opposed to, do you know what I mean? So like on the account that I was paying for, which I think was like $100 a month, which is not an insignificant amount of money when you're literally making no money from it. And I know you were on the higher plan. But you kind of go, well, okay, I can't market via this, because if you want the email marketing and the CRM kind of functionality, you either had to pay for that like an extra $30 just to have that limited like about 1,000 users. Well, your community was already past 1,000 users, so that was useless. Or you go to the next plan, which is $250, 2.5 times what I'm currently paying, just to get the ability to send emails to people. Fluent CRM on a lifetime deal. Fluent Community on a lifetime deal. Those two things alone meant that you could run your entire community with a lot more information, a lot more control. It's just a much nicer way of working. I mean, now you've moved over to it. Is your community actually live now? As in, you've got people commenting and becoming part of it?
We do. We did the first. Everything's been migrated over thanks to Jewel, and he just put inside of the post. Like Jewel and his team have, we got 4 years of content migrated over with over 1,700 members, and I thought we were going to lose all that. So that was pretty tough to lose, but it's there, and it is active. But for right now, we just have our legend members, which is like our core members. We have, we have our students, which is for our trainings and courses. We have our free community, which is, just some free spaces. And then we have our legend space, which is it's only $5 a month. And the reason why I'm just doing 5 and not nothing crazy like 80 or things that you're seeing from, like on school is because it's not about the money. We just want to keep the community clean. We want to make sure there's a bit of a gate to keep out the riffraff that would just, impact. How a bad apple could get through and, could create damage, and I want to protect users. And I feel that, plus we also have like weekly calls every single week. And it's just a place to connect, But yeah, it is active and it's awesome. It's awesome seeing it. But the best thing is, though, moving over to Fluent CRM or Fluent, I got the whole suite, but Fluent Community is that there's no more worry. When the community is on Facebook, Facebook could shut it down at any time, or you could get your account hacked and you could get locked out of it and not get any help from it and just lose everything. Even on YouTube, you could get your channel taken down. And not be able to talk to anyone. And we're seeing that happening. Anytime you're on a bigger platform, they have control over you and your content and your business.
Yep.
And Circle seemed like a good way to get away, but they did some things for me that was like, oh, shit, okay. Yeah. Like, this is not okay. When they, started charging for what was it?
Encoding.
We're paying... Yeah, encoding. We're paying $2,000 a year for our plan, and we're supposed to have like 500 gigabytes of video storage. And all of a sudden, they just said, we're about to start charging if you're over. It's like, okay, fair enough. But then like days before they started charging, they more than tripled the video storage from 500 gigabyte to like 1.7 terabyte and wanted to charge another $2,000. And that's when I was like, yeah, it's time to leave, because you can't trust another company. But if you self-host it, you could trust yourself and make sure you keep the future for your community. So yeah.
One thing I will say before we move on to the next topic, though, and this is kudos to Jewel and the team with regards to Fluent Player and its integration into the community. I love the fact that when I embed a video from YouTube, it strips out all the YouTubiness. All that's gone. It's literally like an embedded video with none of that stuff going on. And there's no effort involved. That you literally just enable the feature and then just paste your video in there and it's job done. I think that's great. I think it's a really good feature that cleans up a lot of that stuff that you don't necessarily want. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you've sort of seen the same thing. It's just a really nice implementation of it.
I haven't used Fluent Player yet. I haven't tried it.
Just go to the settings in Fluent Community, and it just enable. You don't have to do anything else. Just enable it, and then any video you embed in there, you choose the little embed buttons at the bottom. You click on that, put in the code from YouTube, and it'll insert the player into it, like the featured image at the top. It'll be the player. But there'll be no YouTube, so there's no sort of what to watch next. None of that stuff goes in there. It's all gone, stripped out completely. So it's a very nice implementation.
Okay, I'm going to check that out for sure.
Well, jump onto my community later, watch one of the videos, and you'll see there's none of that crap on there. It's just a nicer experience, I think. If you've got people in a community as opposed to something that's like Facebook and that, it's nice to have that level of control where it feels like that's part of the community and not something that's just dumped in there from YouTube. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good experience to have.
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about Instatic. Now, Instatic, for anybody that doesn't know, is from the same team as behind Core Framework, which incidentally, that's going open source. So you won't have to pay, from my understanding, for those additional plugins you used to use for adding it into bricks, into Oxygen, and so on. All that will be part of it. You'll be able to download this for free, I believe. That's the whole point of why they're kind of going open source. But it's the same developers as behind that and Motion.page, the GSAP animation platform, which has a desktop version as well. So I know, Jeffrey, you haven't had chance to really dig into it yet, but have you looked at it at all? Just had a little nose to watch the video that they released a couple of days ago? And if you have, what's your kind of thoughts?
Yeah, no, I checked out the video. It looks pretty cool. Last night, it was late at night though, I didn't get a chance to dive in too much. Quickly got it loaded onto Docker. It was actually quite simple. And within like less than 10 minutes, I was up and running with Instatic. I was going through it though, and I felt like there's still a lot of things that weren't working yet. Like I saw things and, I guess I have to spend a bit more time, but going through the builder was a bit challenging, I saw 3 elements. I don't know if there's more.
There are more. You just have to, where the little drop down comes at the top, the last option, I can't think what it's called. If you click on there, you've got things like your loop, containers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's different. That kind of caught me out as well. I was thinking, well, what is there to do with it? But it is actually there. And I think I've got a video coming out of this about, what's the time now? In about 2 hours. So you'll kind of see it on there. But they are quite rapid at bringing out new updates because David sort of messaged me the other day to say that they've updated one of the features on there for importing Core Framework, and he sent me another message today telling me some other bits and pieces. They've also gone over from just having the API for working with the AI in there to now being able to use the MCP, so you can use Codex and Claude Desktop and so on. So I think this is definitely the path forward. And while yes, it does look kind of bare bones, it's just, I think we're kind of used to having that option on the left-hand side or the right-hand side that you just click and you insert your elements or your widgets, whatever particular builder calls them. It's a different IDE to what we're kind of used to, but probably more so because it's not so much a page builder that we're used to with WordPress, and more of a HTML IDE builder kind of feature, more probably akin to Webflow in certain regards, with like maybe Astro thrown in for good measure as well. I think it's interesting. I do think it's interesting. I think it's just going to take a little bit of time to wrap your head around because we are so used to the way like Elementor, Bricks, Breakdance, Oxygen, any of those tools, they're all relatively familiar. You can jump into one of them and quickly feel comfortable with how it basically works. Do you know what I mean? And I think this is going to take a little bit of time because it is different in certain respects.
Yeah, well, I've always been a fan of core framework, so having core framework built directly into it, uh, definitely I'll be spending time on it. I think it's interesting. I do got to say though, and this does kind of go back to what I mentioned earlier about the transparency on Elementor's decision. I got to give credit to David for being transparent about his,
Yeah, yeah.
change. He came out straight up said, look, it sales have been down 80%. I have to make a change. I respect that. I respect when people are honest, open, and transparent. To me, that builds goodwill. So yeah, and I think, and I've seen somewhere in the comments that saying, hey, this is a vibe coded thing, and I've seen some other shade thrown at it. Look at, I think the whole vibe coded thing just got a bad rap because of the AI bros. The thing is, we're using this. If you're a developer and you got skills in, there's no doubt these guys created Motion. They created core framework. They know what they're doing. They do have some dev skills. If they're going to use AI to speed along the process, that's the smart thing to do. It's not like somebody who has none that lets it do all the work. So, just want to throw that out there. And I think I'm pretty sure people throwing shade are doing the same thing. Just
Yeah,
saying.
well,
Like if you're not using Claude Code, especially when Fable 5 comes back, which fingers crossed it will be. But I also think Claude is going to crash when they release Fable 5 again. Everybody's like, we got to build that app. And I know I am. And then you're just going to say, "Poosh, oh, Claude went down for 3 days.
but again, that goes back to the same thing that we've talked about. I think this is the responsible education when it comes to AI and vibe coding and stuff, is that people that know what they're doing, that are coders and they're developers at heart, that's what they've been doing, and they're using a tool like AI to become more efficient, not to replace their skills, but to enhance their skills so they can literally go, okay, I can get this, I can check through the code, I can see if there's any kind of anomalies, any issues, and I can correct them because I know what the hell I'm doing. It's like the difference between an artist and someone that uses the paint by numbers. The artist can look at it and go, that doesn't work. The light is wrong, the shading's wrong, I've used the wrong colors there, I know how to make that work. Whereas the person with the paint by numbers is literally slapping the colors on based upon the number. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, there's both end up with a picture at the end of it, but one will probably look like a paint by numbers piece of shit, whereas the other one will look like a piece of art. And I think the same thing goes when it comes to this. It's no different to, well, I suppose it is different, but the analogy is kind of works the same, is where, like, what's it called? Theme Forest was massive. You go back 10, 15 years ago, people basically went to Theme Forest to buy a theme based upon an amazing looking design, and that would be how they would use WordPress. And then when they done their bit on it, it looked like shit. Because the people that designed the theme generally were designers and they could make it look amazing. But when you had it, you put it into the hands of people that didn't know white space, didn't understand how all these things worked, and the limitations of things like, Visual Composer and stuff like that. So they ended up with what looked like a bag of shite. But the tool wasn't to blame, was it? No, it was their inability to be able to make something good. And I think the same thing goes with coders. Vibe coders that know nothing about actual code, they'll just do it and it'll look good on screen and it'll work, but they have no idea if there's any security issues or any kind of other thing going on, or how to even tell it, I want to use database in this structure. I want the data to be structured like this. I need relationships within these tables so we can have scalability and all these kinds of things. They don't know, which is why they get poor results from AI, other than it looks cool, but it doesn't work properly because you don't know what to ask it. And I think the same thing goes there. I think that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I screwed up my fair share of Theme Forest themes.
Oh,
I know that. They had it already. All I had to do was choose a block and change the text. But no, I had to tinker around. And then, why doesn't it look right?
Okay, so it's still vibe coded, right? Are we still talking about Instatic? Because has anyone actually got any proof that this is actually vibe coded? And to what extent, if it is vibe coded, are we talking about what we just said? Vibe coded where you have no idea what the hell you're doing? or vibe coding where you know what you're doing and you're using the AI as a tool to help you become more proficient and efficient. Because I think that's the key difference here. It's all well and good to throw shade out there, but do we have proof that that's what the case is? Because they've got a background in developing software, whether that's a desktop app, whether it's a Motion.page plugin for WordPress, or the core framework side of things. So I think we had to be careful. We're just throwing shade out there. We don't know whether that's the case or not. So
Yeah, definitely be careful with that because that spreads and that's how misinformation gets out. And one person, especially if it's a bigger personality that comes out and says it, and then it starts to regurgitate through everybody. And then all of a sudden it's like, you got this guy who spent probably years and years and years developing skills as a developer, created 2 awesome products already. And, yeah. Without the cap, I'm not bald. Get that? I know. I got to start. I got to stop with the. I'm going to start. Letting my hair's actually losing. I think because of the hat. So I got to stop wearing them.
I got to say, it is weird when you see you with a cap because it's like we're so used to you with a cap on. It's like suddenly it's like I want it. Wait, is that Jeffrey's brother?
I know. Every time I do it, there's always somebody says he's not bald. I was like, dang, did I look bald this whole time? Had the crown, like, oh.
Just take it off. And the bits of
Larry
hair just like,
Bird
come off with it.
What is it, Larry, whatever his name is, crown. Oh, man.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes or so, and there's 2 sort of relatively quick topics I want to kind of touch upon, because obviously, like I say, I don't want to end up, I'm going to try and keep these around about the hour mark. Because then Jeffrey starts to go off on a wild tangent. Otherwise, there's mushroom tea and all kinds of
stuff. Put my foot
stories.
in my mouth. Yeah, I'll put my foot in my mouth. Watch before. I think I already did. I started off putting my foot in my mouth on this one. But hey, that's why we do this. We want to keep it real. Like, look, I don't know everything. I don't know. I'm always learning. I'm just learning like everybody else. I make mistakes, and then I listen, and then I reevaluate, and I like listening to you. This is why we're always connecting, and then others, and even inside the chat, there's several people right now in this chat that I learn from, and that's all I'm doing. And I think that's what we're all doing is just learning and trying to figure this shit out. So if I say something wrong, sorry. I probably will. I'm like AI. 70% will be okay. But that 30%, I'll tell you to eat a rock. Because that's the right recipe.
That's right. Or super glue your cheese on your pizza so it doesn't fall off. Remember those kids.
It's going to happen. It is. If you're keeping it real, if you're keeping it real. Now, there's some very intellectual people out there. I'm not one of them.
Yeah, they're not in the room right now with us, though.
No.
Anyway, back on track. So, yeah. I want to just quickly touch upon a topic that I kind of released a very short video on because it's just something I think is important and it is something that's out there, is the pricing your skills and your services when it comes to AI. Do you know what I mean? Where we've got like, if you were using AI in your business, right, in whatever format that takes, do you personally think you should change your pricing structure, whether that's increase it or decrease it? I got my own opinions on it, but what are your thoughts on it?
Absolutely not decrease. No way. Never. Like there's a difference between being an AI bro coming in, not knowing nothing, not putting in the work, not doing your reps of trying to learn all the things that come, that come with building websites and what we deliver, the value that we deliver. There are a lot of people coming in just using AI to flip something real quick. That's something completely different from somebody who's spent years and constantly been learning. And it's still, I've been doing this now for 10 years and there's still so much more to learn. But through all of that time, I've put together a very big stack of skills that delivers value. Now, there are 2 things that I think need to be looked at when we are looking at our prices. One is the market. We do got to understand the market. If $50,000 for a 5-page website, that's really not realistic.
No.
No matter how good you are. But The market dictates the price, and I do not see clients all of a sudden like, hey, there's AI. Why am I I'm going to pay you 3 times less, even though inflation is up. So if anything, we should be paying more as long as we have value. And that's the second thing. What is the value that we are going to deliver? If we are delivering value, we should be pricing based on that. What are your thoughts on it? I was halfway through your video, but then my elk burrito finished and I had to go eat that. As I've been
sounds disgusting, I've got to say. My thoughts are basically the same. We didn't change our pricing when we moved over to things like page builders from how you built it previous. The way I look at it is we're not bringing just the end result. We're not just bringing, there's a web page, right? Anybody can do that. Any vibe coding bro can do it. You know, you can go to Wix, you can do it. You can go to Squarespace, you can go to any of those and pull a template in and make it look pretty. What we bring to the table is not the making it look pretty based upon a template cookie cutter structure. It's understanding intent, understanding the client's needs, understanding how you convert those needs into a flow that fulfills those needs. So for example, if you've got someone they want to sell a product, they have to have e-commerce, it might be a single product. Well, you have to get someone to feel confident enough in whatever you create to want to press that buy now button. And if you're talking about someone that doesn't have any kind of online presence like we do, for example, where people go, oh, well, I've already learned like 50 hours worth of stuff off Jeffrey, then I want to buy whatever he brings out. He's got a course, I want to buy it. You see that with people like yourself, with Jeffrey, with Dave Foy, for example, Imran, all different people. Because they've learned so much, they feel like they want to give it back. They want to do something to support you. That's totally different. You've kind of earned your stripes for them. We're talking about businesses that maybe have none of that. So your job is to get people confident enough by the time they've actually landed on that site and scrolled through a little bit, and you kept them long enough to keep them on there to get to the point where you convince them to press the buy button. Or it's something about getting someone to send an email to book a consultation or anything. Your job is to understand what that client's needs are and how to realize those needs. Whatever your tools you use in between should be irrelevant, whether you hand-coded it with Notepad or whether you used AI to vibe code it. What the end result is, that's where your skills come in. And then the support, the maintenance, the ongoing help, all those things, that's what separates a template jockey from an AI vibe coding bro to someone that knows what the hell they're doing. And it goes back to the same thing I said earlier on. It's like if someone is using AI to enhance their workflow and they get to the point quicker, that's a benefit to that person. They've used a smart workflow to get them somewhere quicker. And it's no different to autocomplete. You know what I mean? It's like you go on, for example, like you do in CSS. You can type every single character in, every space, every line break, every indent. Or you can use an IDE which allows you to quickly just start typing and it'll pre-fill it out and it knows exactly what context. Type in V, it knows you're doing a variable, puts the structure in, you just put your variable in, or select it from a list. These are all optimization tools that make us more efficient, but the skills we bring, the knowledge and experience we bring, and the understanding we bring, that's what we're being paid for. Well, that's what we should be being paid for. So dropping the price? No, I don't see you should. Yes, I agree, market does dictate. This is what we see when you're dealing with companies maybe in India where the exchange rate isn't as strong as like the US dollar, to the UK, to Europe, to other parts of the world. There's obviously a factor there. That's never going to change. That's just part of it. But your market will still dictate. So yes, surely, if we see fluctuation, then you've got to question, is the client the right client for you? And there are obviously extenuating factors, but I don't think we should drop our prices.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how creatives could be our worst enemies. Like in web design, web development, logo design, for some reason in the creative industry, we could be our worst enemies. Because you're always going to see people that come in, you can't charge that. You're ripping people off if you charge that. You're supposed to, and it's just like, wait, Like I think I did something with Reno where I showed a $10,000 website that I created. 10K. I
10K
know.
websites.
Yeah,
Always the 10K website.
ruined it,
Oh,
man. It ruined it for me. But it was
AI
just like,
Pro. AI Pro.
yeah, bro, it was a short, and you would be surprised at the comments by other web creators. You can't charge 10K. You can't charge that. Uh, I just think I always felt like there's like two mindsets that come into this. We have the creative mindsets and then we have the business mindsets. And we need to find a way to be in the balance because when we're so creative, it's hard to see the business side of things. And we don't really look at the value, we don't really understand the economics. And then we're also super sensitive. I'm a creative and I'm very, very sensitive. I hate sales, or I used to. I shouldn't say I hate it because I've opened up to it. I've learned it. I've embraced it. And I think we have to. That's part of the process. I had to
But it's
correct
not.
myself right now.
But
Huh?
it's not a natural environment for most creatives. It's not. It's
No,
just.
no, it's a deterrent. I mean, it's something that's uncomfortable. Like we just want to create something, but then a lot of creatives too don't have confidence in what they create. So maybe their experience is, their skills aren't really good. They're unable to create something really nice, and they're unable to close a client for a good price. And maybe they've been slammed, but they built this narrative inside of their mind that anybody who charges more than $1,000 for a website is ripping everybody off. And all of a sudden they get so adamant about it, like it's a matter of fact to them. And this is something that I've been wanting to break inside of the content that I create and what I do. I understand where they're coming from. And, it's just something that we all need to learn in order to move forward. It is crazy though for creatives. I understand though, a lot of us are just too sensitive. We don't understand business. On the flip side, you got the business mindsets. And some of those guys, they really mess things up. And then they also cause the creatives to feel this way. Because you got these guys out there, and I see them, they go into Upwork or onlinejobs.ph. I was just going through job postings, like, I need somebody $200 per website. It's just like, that person's probably trying to sell that for $5,000 and just rip off clients
Yeah.
and not deliver value. So you have this other extreme right here where we really need to be in the middle and really, be somewhere inside of the middle, I guess is where I'm going.
But do you think that maybe the people that go on and sort of say you can't sell that for 5,000, we're not going to say 10, but $5,000, they're looking at the result. They're looking at the end result. And I think that's the difference. Is I used to see it when I used to have potential clients come in. You could identify them very, very quickly. If you had someone that when they came in and you told them a ballpark figure, because you can't go like, it's going to cost you 5,000. They say between 5 and 10 grand, depending upon factors, blah, blah, blah. And they would go, how much? I'll give you 2. And it's like, no, because you place no value on what you're going to get. And those are the kind of customers you don't, or clients you don't want, because they're going to question every single decision along the way, and they're going to nickel and dime every single choice you make and question everything you do. And then you got other ones that come in, and they go like, so this is what I'm looking for, and you listen to them and you'll advise them, because what they ask for isn't always generally what they need. They just got an idea because they've listened to some people and they've been told you should ask for this. So you listen, you advise, you guide. Sometimes that means it costs them more, other times it costs them less. And I think that's the important factor here, is being honest and open with people. And then they go, that's fine, when can you start? Because they understand and appreciate the skills, the value, the knowledge, and what you're going to do for them. And that's the difference. And I think it's the same on the flip side. You get some, we'll call them web designers, because that's what they call themselves, because it's an industry that's unchecked. But what they're doing is they're looking at how much they would charge for that. Let's say £500, $500, and you've charged 2,000, and they're going, how can you charge that much? It's because you're looking at the physical, I will build you a website. And that's what you will have at the end of it. Not, we will build a relationship, I will understand what you're looking for, we'll have a partnership, as it were, where you'll tell me, I will advise you, and we will create and craft the result that gets you the results you're looking for, or provides the solution that you need. That's the job. That's what we do. That's what AI can't bring to the table, because ultimately I've got a video coming out soon on like 5 reasons why AI can't replace you as a web designer kind of thing. So I think there's a lot more to it, and I think it's perceptions of some people.
Can you hear me okay? My
Yeah,
mic,
fine.
something happened to my microphone. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't see the reps. They don't see the years of obsession to learn. They don't see the countless sleepless nights, the stress that has gone on from just working with all kinds of different clients. And when things do go wrong and trying to fix it, I don't see all that work that went into it. There's so much that goes into it versus just putting in a couple of years to learn how to build something halfway decent. And a lot of the times it isn't about how good the website looks. It's all the other stuff. But yeah, it's just a really weird, like, crabs in a bucket situation that, creatives are in. Same thing. I've seen it inside logo design platforms and stuff like that. Like, it's just something that we have in our industry where others want to pull others down instead of try to learn, like, wait, how can I do that? How can I get there? What did you do to get that client?
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's what I did. First, I put in a lot of years and failed my ass in so many different ways. Crashed hard, burned, wanted to quit, run away, got fat, got skinny, got fat, got skinny. Like, a lot of things has happened along the way to get here, but the process works, and there is a process to get there. And as far as going back to the original question, if somebody is using AI, should they pay less? There's always going to be new technology that helps us do better, that helps us streamline our process. So we're going to get faster.
Yeah.
And it makes no logical sense that we continue to get better, learn better technology, to bring in more skills, more value, more experience, and keep charging less. While inflation goes up across the world, it doesn't make logical sense. The logical sense is, that we continue to charge more and we continue to learn the new technology because that's just going to allow us to do more for our clients, especially AI. We learn it. You get good at it. It's the reason why I chose Claude Code, and I'm going to master it. I do my master one thing at a time philosophy, and I chose that because I know by learning it, not only am I going to know how to connect it to a WordPress website and do something, I'm going to learn all kinds of different ways I could utilize this tool to help other people.
Exactly. Part of my experience over the last, well, let me give you a real world example, is that my partner, she's on the side of the board with a local cinema, which is like the oldest cinema in Wales, which is where I come from. And they're not doing particularly well from a financial point of view. It's a very old cinema kind of thing. Anyway, so their website is terrible. And a big part of it is the fact that they've got to go back to the person that built the website. It's not on WordPress or anything like that. And changes are slow and painful. So I just wanted to see, right, okay, I'm going to use Codex, and I'm going to use that with bricks, and I'm going to see, right, I'm going to do that to build a data structure for me, handle some of the queries and things so I can speed up the process. So it's an actual real-world tangible example of how you would work. And it made life so much quicker and easier. Yes, you still need to understand what the heck you're asking for. But from a data structure point of view, easy. Done it all for me. Do you know what I mean? So you've got the times and everything on there. You've got the films. You've got it. I can use AI to automatically pull in the thumbnail, the description, the trailer. All the details can all be pulled in from AI. Just go and scrape it for me. So 6 films on there in about 15 seconds, whereas that would have taken me a good half an hour to go and search for them, copy and paste and faff about. The data structure was all in there. I built the basic templates out myself manually, then get it to actually create queries, which are multi-relationship queries. So things you could do yourself, but you just basically sat there, go, right, okay, I want you to pull data from this table connected via that. The relationships are in place. So quick and easy. But I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm asking it to do. So when I tell it to do something, I'm not just going, build me a website for a local cinema, because it's going to go off and do its own thing. So the AI will just start to do what it thinks is right. Whereas my skills and understanding and knowledge of building database structured websites, I can tell it the structure I want, knowing that 3 steps down the line when I want to put the template together, I've got tables connected with data that I want to have compartmentalized, but I want to be able to combine that data together. But I know I want to do that. I know when I want to do it and how I want to build it at the templates. So would I charge less for something like that? No, because the website is ultimately probably more complex, but made simpler for the end user because of the way the data is structured. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I wouldn't charge less for that. I would charge the same or more because it means I can do things that maybe before would have taken me a lot longer and wouldn't have been financially viable with the budget they may have had. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I can create things quicker and with less trial and error. But
Yeah.
I think this is the way that AI is kind of. We will find how AI makes sense. I think before we get to the point where AI can do the design, I think that will fade away. I think that will become something that some people will use and you will spot it a mile away because every time they release a new model and someone goes like, oh, this is the best, web designers are cooked. Look at this website I've done. And they only ever show a bloody hero section or something. You watch 5 other videos by 5 other creators and you try it yourself and all of them have the same identifying marks. Like we see M dashes in the text and you see various different AI patterns in the way that it spits out the data. You see them in design. You see them in all these different things. And for some people, that doesn't matter. But the people that are paying the proper money, those are not the clients that would worry about if you were using AI in the right way because they're coming to you for the whole thing, not just one aspect of it. They could go to Wix and do it themselves if they wanted to that way. You know what I mean? But that leads me on to my last topic, which we are going to do super quickly. And that is the visual version of Novamira, which was released yesterday. It's still an experimental feature, and I've released a video on it yesterday. But have you had a chance to try it yourself, or have you seen the video, or do you know anything about it?
I saw your video, and I was going to ask you about that. So does that mean with the visual option that you could keep the editor open, you could see the work happening and not lose the work? Because one thing I was facing is when I had Claude Code go into Bricks and add something, if I had the editor open, when I closed it, it took away the work. Like it didn't save the work that Claude Code did. So is that the purpose behind it? I'm just trying to understand the purpose.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of concept behind it is, like, if you look at like something like Build Areas, for example, where the AI is integrated directly into the Build Areas editor, when you're typing and you're seeing the structure being built on screen in the visual editor, and you've got like your code, your AI chat at the bottom. We don't have that. So what this is basically doing is you have your Codex, your Claude Code, your desktop app, whatever it is open, and you have your page open, and then it'll basically open up a tab or tabs inside your browser session, which is connected to Codex, Claude Code, and so on. And then when you're making changes there, or you ask you to do something, it will visually show you an update in the screen in real time. It's not the quickest thing in the world, but I think that's just unfortunately inherent with training the AI to understand how you want to build and having your design MD file and maybe refining that. So it will probably get better with time and maybe quicker. But then it does save it for you as well. So when it's doing the different things, it'll put the design up, it will do the saving. So if you did close the editor window down, then you'd kill the session kind of thing, but it would have saved the work that you're doing. So it's kind of like a hybrid approach between the two. You've got Codex open, telling it what to do, and that's directly connected to your website in a visual tab inside your browser, and it is technically operating inside the editor that you're using. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's good to see Novamira. They're just moving forward. I wasn't expecting this from them. Honestly, this is like, wait, they're really. I thought first they made it like, okay, it's good, but then they started dropping more and more. So, yeah, this is pretty cool to see. It definitely. I see it's going to help out a lot, especially in that the workflow that I had on my own website using Claude Code in it, I had to keep closing down the page, restarting it in order to see the changes, what happened. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Try it out. It's a different setup, but I can see the benefits of it. Do you know what I mean? I think the easiest way to kind of consider is if you ever used, or anyone in the sort of chat ever used Visual Composer, you know that you are basically just moving blocks with no visual.
We
No
lost
visual.
him again.
Okay. I'm still here. No visualization. So you literally had just some boxes on screen, and that was it. That was the way we used to work. Now, where you moved over to like Elementor, where you can see those widgets and the elements and the images and the text all on the page as they will be seen at the end result. That's kind of like where this is. But to answer Jonathan's comment, does the method take a lot of resources tokens to achieve small updates in the browser? It probably depends on what you're using. I use Codex. I'm on the $20 a month plan, and the entire session I did yesterday, prepping for the video I released yesterday, so it was probably a good couple of hours. I went through 70% of my 5-hour allowance, and that was creating multiple different layouts, connecting it up, advising it, getting it to the design MD files, and a bunch of other things. So I would say no heavier than using something like Codex in a normal session. If you're using the API, which I don't think you can do with Novamira, then it would probably be more expensive, but then the APIs are more expensive however you use them. It's just not the most effective way of working. So, which leads me back, let me just quickly go back to one other thing to do with Instatic, which I thought was good as well with AI. You can use Anthropic, you can use Claude, you can use Anthropic, use ChatGPT, you can use Cursor, and you can use Olama. So if you wanted to have your own offline LLM to work, you can connect it up. So all the different models you've got there, you can use any of those models and connect it up to Instatic, which I thought was a good way of working, because I think that is the future we're going to see. As computers get more powerful, we're going to see more people will want their LLMs offline for the obvious reasons of sending data back, etc., etc., etc. And here's Giovanni. So I think that is a good approach, is to have the ability to connect up to offline LLMs via Olama or other tools like that. Quick one, what do you think?
About which one?
The Olama bit. Sorry. The Olama bit.
Kind of, I don't know. I was just seeing Giovanni in here, just saying, what's up, Giovanni? Good to see him over here. I would love to learn what's in the roadmap, because like I said, I wasn't expecting this, but at the same time, what Novamira is doing is very smart. It's going in the right direction. This is what we're going to start seeing in workflows. We're seeing it across the board, like the writings on the walls, MCPs, connecting your AI agent in there, using it not to do the work for you or to take over your job, but to use it as a companion. You know, somebody asked about the small updates. I still think it's better to do small updates on your own. For me, it's faster. You know, if I'm going to go in and change something quickly, it's like, what would I have somebody else doing while I'm working? Like somebody else could be maybe setting up the blogs, you know, or they could be setting up something else and running, or maybe there's something complicated that would take me a lot of time. But yeah, and the self-hosted LLMs, just saw a study on it that they cover really about 70% of what the, you know, cloud-based ones like, you know, OpenAI and Anthropic, what they have, they do just about as good of a job. And, you know, I know there's a lot of things going on with Fable 5 and Mythos, and I think there's a lot of politics involved with all that. I don't want to get into the politics side. I definitely got my conspiracy theory hat on when it comes to the reasons behind it. I think we're always being lied to. But I think that, look at everything's going to get this good. It's going to happen, and pretty soon it's going to be more about like, can we actually use something that powerful? Like, can we actually have a computer and afford a computer that is that powerful? Like maybe the Mac Studio Ultra M10 with 7,000 gigabytes of RAM that won't exist anymore because there's no more RAM left on the planet. I don't know. Like I said, I start putting my foot on my mouth.
Well, I got to be honest. I think local LLMs are, I think the area that we're going to find a lot of people going in is local LLMs will become far more prevalent, and they'll be far more specialized. So you'll have, if you wanted to do something like a design thing, you might have a LLM that's very, very good at design, which means that the data set is smaller than a general purpose LLM, which is kind of covering all these things. So your chat GPTs, sort of your Claude and those kinds of things, which is trying to be everything, which makes them massive, which means obviously you need a massive amount of compute. Whereas I think if you had one that's dedicated specifically to being like, this is a coding one, maybe a PHP coding one, or a MySQL kind of coding one, or a hybrid one for web design type things, HTML, CSS, and those kinds of things. I think we'll start to see things like that, which means then that you will have the ability to connect those up and use them for a specific job. So you want to build a data structure out and create some things, you'll use so-and-so LLM. Want to create content, you want to write content, you'll use a different LLM. You want one that is good with design, you'll use a different LLM. And we'll have, like you've got the different platforms now, where you can switch between what LLM you want to use for any given project. I think we're going to start to see more of those things. And I think we will start to see a lot more of those being localized as opposed to always being online versions. If you look at like Olama, the number of ones in there is quite extensive. And I think that's going to grow and specialize. And I think we're going to move away from these kind of generalized ones, which are going to become far too expensive for the average user, unless you were actually making money off it to cover the cost of that several $100s per month. I think that's what's going to happen, because human nature is always a case of, right, everything is thrown at the wall. And that's what we're seeing right now. All these things are being thrown at the wall. But then we're starting to see little pockets of areas that AI is really good at. And then we're going to start to see models that come out that cater towards those things. So like you say, Fable, for example, very good at coding. So that's a model that's there for it. It's kind of specializing or getting closer to a specialization. And I think that's going to refine down. We're going to kind of like funnel it down from where we are now, which is very generalized LLMs. And we're starting to get closer now to more specialized areas. So we have different models that are very good at specific things. So we'll switch between models and get more accustomed to that kind of workflow. And therefore the resources required to run them are going to be less.
That makes a lot of sense. That really does. I could see that happening. And yeah, I would welcome it for sure. Especially if we're just using it for coding. I would love to just have my own. I mean, I just got billed today from Anthropic, and not on the $20 plan anymore.
Dorothy.
So that would be very nice. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And good to see Jackson here as well. Was just taking a look at the chat. Yeah.
Yes, there's been lots of nice creators in today, which is always good. So I'm going to say let's wrap it up by there, because I think that's a nice natural end to what we want to talk about. Now, as always, if people want to find out more about you, I've done this already, so we've now got a banner just by there, so Jeffrey doesn't have to go through the same thing again. Like, see, I've thought of you, and I've thought of just giving you time.
Yeah,
just by there. Hey, look, man, it's been a pleasure as always. It's always fun to have these conversations, and I hope that people that are actually in the chat or watching this on catch up enjoy the conversations that we have, because, as we say, the whole point of this is we're like two mates sat in a pub talking shit, things that bother us, things that we're interested in, and that's kind of the whole concept of Let's Talk. But thank you again for being part of this week's live stream, and hopefully we get to do it again in a couple of weeks' time.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on. And thank you, everybody else, for being here. It was a good time.
It's been a good conversation today. It's been some definite highs and lows. But if you're watching this on catch up, make sure you drop a comment down below on any of the points that you enjoyed in today's conversation. And Jeffrey and myself will be back, hopefully in a couple of weeks' time. We will have another bunch of different topics to rant about, talk about, get annoyed about, and have fun talking about. But until next time, have a fantastic day.
Ciao. I see a lot of ciao in the chat.
you tell Giovanni's in, like, that's what it is. Cheers, guys.